I retweeted it, not tweeted it, but I received it and I sent it out.
It is very good.
Somebody actually asked me, do they really
It
have
has a tree right
No,
there.
no.
And the squirrels are just, I mean, and it's about 2.5 desks long. And places right in every inch of it. They'll all be gone by spring.
They know. They can tell.
There's money in the contract for it. When's that done? He's trying to get it by next week.
All right. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Cindy, you want to do a roll call, please?
Acting Chair Gorski,
Here.
Rebecca Anderson,
Here.
John Kopes,
Here.
Joseph Keith,
Here.
Lawrence Korzenetsky.
Here.
Michael Wright.
Here.
Okay, first of all, we're going to welcome everybody. This is a meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Lancaster. Please keep in mind that we are an advisory board only, recommending body to the town board. The rules of the Planning Board only allow us to recognize the petitioner and representatives for the various projects. We ask that anyone wishing to make comment besides them do so in writing. So let's take a look at the minutes from the last meeting from 11/1/23. Any comments, additions, deletions to those minutes? Okay, is everybody good? If they are, we make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Okay, let's take a quick look at the communications list, which is very deep this week or this month. Any questions, comments, concerns, board members?
No.
Okay. That being said, we'll move on to our first item on the agenda, which is Project 1834, a minor subdivision, two-lot split at 647 Ransom Road.
Good evening. Ralph Lurigo here on behalf of the owner Lionel Rope. I appreciate, by the way, the fact that you let me not come on the last appearance, which happened to be my 49th wedding anniversary, and so my wife thanks you. So what we have here is a situation where my client owned approximately 275 feet of frontage on Ransom Road. He sold his house, which was 159.38 feet. You can see in the survey that I provided to you the house that was sold, and what was remaining was the lot that was 115 feet by 515 feet, an irregular shaped lot, a little over an acre. That lot has been separately taxed, so it now has a separate tax bill, but when he went through it, he failed to come before you to do the minor subdivision. So I believe we meet all the conditions of your code to have the minor subdivision, with one exception. So with the exception is that at the time he sold the property, the frontage that was allowed for a buildable lot on Ransom Road was 100 feet. Now it has changed to, I believe, 150 feet. So he would have, anybody who purchased a lot would have to get a variance, but that would be separate and aside from what we're seeking here. So here we're simply seeking to subdivide, and I apologize because we're coming after the fact, we're simply seeking to have a minor subdivision to separate that 115-foot lot. So I did provide to the town the legal description, the short form environmental, and the surveys. And I'm happy to answer any questions with regard to it.
Okay, any questions from the board members?
No.
Anybody else?
Is this an instance where we would want to annotate somewhere, as a requiring disclosure? I know that the buildable frontage should be known for someone that's going to build, but we've done similar things, right, where we just make it on the record where it's kind of written. Or is that kind of looking at you over there? Got bits on that?
I expect I have to go in front of the ZBA.
Go ahead.
So, and I certainly understand that that would be the process. And I understand that. And the town's actually given me a great deal of latitude here, so I will do that.
Okay, so now I guess my understanding is, Mr. Fowler, this is out for seeker review, is that correct?
We went out on 10/17,
That?
so we're, I think, a day off. With a 31-day month.
Okay, so we need to wait for that to come back, so we'll get a coordinated review. And I know we already have a public hearing set for 12/6
Right.
at 7:05.
Right.
So by then, we should have seeker, or
We should
coordinated
proceed at the same
review.
time. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So then we can complete our seeker and vote on it at the next meeting, right?
Yes.
12/6.
Can I just ask, Mr. Lugo, I know you and I have spoken about this on a couple of occasions.
Yes.
Have you already made your ZBA application?
No, I haven't, because I want to get through this process.
Understood.
And then put it on. I presume that's the right way to do it. If for some reason I were to be held up here, I know that they wouldn't be able to accomplish anything until we were finished with this.
Okay, Ed, any other questions or comments? Matt?
If I could just refer to my initial comments, there are 2 variances that we need to apply for.
Okay.
One would be the road frontage and then the square foot area of the lot itself. This would be specifically for the newly created parcel. What do we do with the remaining
The other,
that's already transferred?
with the house that's existing
Correct.
and sold already.
Correct.
Good question.
So, I mean, when we made the split in 18, they were
So what's the road frontage of the house that's existing?
159 feet,
Okay, and the minimum now is 150?
300.
Oh, 300.
300 by 3 acres. So the mother parcel or the lot that has the house on it, we're at 159-foot road frontage and 2 acres in area.
So that parcel needs 2 variances? And,
Keep in mind that that's a non-conforming lot as it sits today, created without approval. We're retroactively trying to approve something that happened prior to the code change. Now that we have this code change, so we have to keep that in mind that the portion that had been sold, the title is already transferred, is non-conforming.
We do?
The part with the house on it.
yes.
And the other one is for sale. The new lot is not, it's owned by the original owner still?
Yes. I do have a separate tax bill, so it has been separately assessed.
Yeah, but you know, when I bought my house, it had been split illegally into 2 lots. And I had 2 tax bills, and it meant nothing, and I merged them immediately. I put them back.
Well, when you merge them, it's a different story than in here when you try to divide them.
Right.
So you wouldn't need anything really to merge them. You would need to come before this board.
Exactly. That's what that's correct. I didn't have to do anything to merge them. I had called the town at that, whoever was working at that time, and made sure that that was the case. But it would be, under today's rules, non-conforming lots. So I guess where I'm going with this is just because they split it, in order to, those are pretty big variances. You know, to me, you've got
Well, I thought the,
300 feet and 3 acres of land is the new standard.
2020 was.
isn't the frontage 150 feet?
300 feet. In the AR district.
In the AR.
Road frontage is 300 feet by 3 acres.
So the frontage on this property needs to be 300 feet? I thought it was 150 feet at the time.
300 feet.
But was it 150 feet at the time?
Prior to the code change, the requirement was 100 feet of frontage by 1 acre in area.
Okay.
At the time, it would have been a.
So, but each parcel does have more than 1 acre, so I guess I'm not understanding.
Correct. At the time of the split, at the time the deeds were filed at County Hall, the local zoning, those design standards were sufficient. It was a proper separation. By making the code change, they become non-conforming. So we're seeking an approval in 2023 for an action that happened in 2018.
Well, again, I'm only seeking the minor subdivision of these 2 parcels. And I see what you're saying, and we're going back to a time when it would have been approved.
They would have been conforming in 2018.
It would have been conforming.
That's correct.
So do we have any, can we legally even do anything to the, because really the owner of the house parcel then would need to come in for a variance
Really?
for something that they had no, at the time, was conforming.
So,
Can we really tell them that they need to come back and file for variances on an existing, what Matt's saying, a non-conforming parcel now?
Technically speaking, we have to get, at least the way I look at it, just their permission for Mr. Larigo to make the application on variance for both of them. And if the ZBA says, yes, we agree, we're willing to go back to 18 when it would have been treated this way, we'll issue the variances. He can get them on behalf of both, because also technically speaking, one day before the deeds were filed, he would have done it anyways for the master parcel, for the parent parcel, which was a single unit owned by the person who now owns the 115, if I'm understanding.
Yeah, that's what he said.
So that's just a matter of getting the new owners to sign on, authorizing you to make the application on their behalf, if I'm not mistaken.
okay,
I think that's a minor formality, and something we can talk about if you need.
okay, I'll give you a call.
And then there was the final point, it was bullet item number 4 on the letter dated September 25th. We have a tributary serviced by a pond, crosses the two property lines. They're not identified as a town ditch. So at some point, ownership would have to acknowledge maintenance of that streamway, cross drainage agreements, something should be put in place that prevents lack of maintenance and allowing the runoff to pass through the creek.
So that's something else that the current homeowner would have to agree to, you're saying, Matt?
I would have to agree. There has to be some sort of an acknowledgement by both of these owners to the town that the maintenance of this drainage system, this cross-property ditch, is going to be done on the private side.
If you're gonna be talking to them, are you okay about trying to address that?
Well, I haven't talked to the homeowners. I wasn't involved in the
I
initial
get it,
sale.
I get it,
So-
but now it seems like that should be done, from what I'm hearing here.
Otherwise, I don't believe the ZBA will look at this and issue the variance. So he'll have a non-conforming lot if he ever comes in for a shed or comes in for a pool, a roof permit. He'll be a non-conforming lot, and that's going to come up again in the future. And again, happy to talk about all this with you. And
All right, I'll give you a call. I'm happy to contact the owner and explain to him. I can imagine what he's going to think when I say you need some type of approval. He's going to say, well, I've been here for 4 years and, you know, how could that possibly be? I've been paying taxes to the town but I certainly will make the approach.
Okay.
But again, here I'm asking simply to divide the two. They're two separate owners.
But you're asking us to divide it to a non-conforming lot.
Again, all that means is I have a piece of land that I might not ever be able to use unless I get a variance. But it doesn't stop you from dividing it. It's two separate owners and it's two separate tax bills.
I think we'd have to ask legal counsel. I'm not sure about that one.
me personally, I would advise you, and we've got some things to work through, but I don't think this board should recommend to the town board to create non-conforming lots.
That's what I'm thinking.
I realize we already have non-conforming lots, but you'd basically be rubber stamping that. If you want to approve that, I have no issue with you approving it subject to the ZBA issuing the variances on both lots. It would not come back to the town board, though, for final approval until the ZBA did the variances and, you know, affirmatively gave their blessing on the variances. None of that can happen the way the town currently operates until after seeker. It has to be negative declaration before we can send it back to the ZBA. I'm
But we
fairly confident
can't,
that it will.
I mean, this is all great discussion, but we can't do anything today anyways. And we need to go coordinated review, we need the public hearing, then we need the negative deck on seeker. And then we could make some sort of vote.
And condition it
But
on the
condition
variances.
of the variance.
Sure. And then after ZBA hears it, we can take it straight to the town board for approval, if that is your decision. And theirs.
If it's not,
Okay.
who owns the parent lot? If it's not our, I mean, I understand what we're doing here is splitting this into two ownership, right?
Right.
The original
Somebody already-
homeowner owns,
The whole, all the land.
no, he owns one lot that has nothing on it right now.
My client only owns the 115-foot lot.
Okay.
It won't revert back.
It can't revert back. Okay. All right. That motion, we table till the 6th? If we can.
Councilman Mazur, anything else? All right, then I guess I'll make a motion to table until the meeting on 12/6, where hopefully we can do the seeker and have the public hearing, and then make some sort of motion from our board.
Cindy, are we already on for public hearing on the 6th? We already did all that?
Okay, on that motion,
Mr. Larigo, if I can just
Go ahead.
add a comment, Mr. Larigo, on the September 18th of 23, non-compliance form was emailed to you. This is the information that you'll utilize to make the application for the zoning board.
To the ZBA?
Yes.
Yeah, you did send that to me, but I was waiting for this process, that, I understand that.
Thank you.
okay, so I have a motion on the table, or on, motion to table. All those in favor? Or do I have a second, right? We gotta get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No.
I'll see you December 6th.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, with that being said, we'll move on to our next item, which is Trocaire College.
Because I remember seeing it. Okay. And then we had some sort of discussion.
All right. Good evening. My name is James Radwan. I'm an architect with Troutman Associates, also a partner. I'm joined here today with Andrew Terragnoli, Dr. Bassam Deeb, and Dr. Richard Lynn from Trocaire College. I'm going to have them come up and give just a brief little history about the project, and then I'll explain I'll present the plans for site plan approval, if you don't mind. Okay?
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for taking up our request. Essentially, just to kind of give you a perspective, the college fully owns a property that is off a transit road that we have historically used for a variety of academic programs. Over the last, what I would say, 40 years or so, we've closed the hospitality program, so there is a piece inside the building that is what used to be the culinary lab that's kind of sat empty since right before COVID, essentially. I'm sure you may have read in the paper over the last 18 months, the college was in an effort to try to acquire Medaille University, and when that did not come to fruition, over the summer we had an opportunity to meet with a number of the faculty at the university, and with that understanding in mind, we were able to essentially hire 5 of the faculty that run the vet tech program at the university. With Medaille closing on the 31st of August, we then moved forward with the process of essentially installing a new academic program. We have submitted our application to the state for approval. Part of that application process requires that we ensure that we have the proper training facility within the domain of Trocaire College. We chose to use the transit location, what we refer to as the Trocaire Achievement Center, as a way to support that program. utilizing essentially an existing portion of the building, but also creating an addition to it. And the idea is to create labs for our students so they can be trained to be vet techs and they can work in the community. There are a couple of reasons why we're asking for your consideration on this project. Is that with the program closing in August, we're working diligently with the state to get approval so that the program can be reestablished in this community. There is currently no program in this community for this. And so that would be effective August of 2024. And so we want to be able to use the time frame to do that. With that understanding in mind, one of the requirements as part of the application process is that we have to show them evidence that we are able to support the program, and to that extent, that's what this is about, to kind of give you a sense of the more technical architectural engineering piece. That's why our colleagues are here from 3M to engage you in the process. The faculty have been diligent working. They've been working out of the transit facility to design the program. We have solicited support in the community, particularly from veterinary clinics, the SPCA. We have over 50 letters of support. We'll use that to make the case with the state. We've already met with the state. They're very amenable to the idea because there are a number of students who are currently not connected to another institution of higher education. So they had started their program at Medaille and they're kind of in limbo. So we're trying to aggressively move to support their ability to be back and complete the program. This is a 2-year program. It's a vet tech assistant. It's a 2-year program. There will be some couple of other options related to it. One is a vet assistant program, which is a not-for-credit piece that we will work with, as well as an online component. So, but essentially, what we're trying to create is a clinical environment for our students to be able to do their practice before we would then send them out into the community. So this is a situation where we're not housing the animals over a period of time. For those of you who may be familiar with the vet tech program, when it was at Medaille, they actually housed animals for a long period of time and then they put them up for adoptions. That's not the case. So this is more of a day-to-day kind of operation. There are some cage animals, small animals that we have to, a vivarium essentially, that we will be using to create the learning environment for our students. So with that understanding in mind, we're looking for your support in this process so that, one, to continue to be able to use that facility in a more effective way, but also to respond to community needs, which has been kind of the tradition that Trocare has done over the last 65 years in this community, is to offer academic programs that are relevant to people who live in this community. My Senior Vice President, Dr. Lin, is available as well to answer any specific questions you might have about, what's from an academic standpoint, what's in there, in case you have some questions.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
How much of the existing building are you going to use for this program?
About half, give or take.
Well, right now we have the culinary piece, the kitchen, is going to be, integrated with the new addition. So the new addition is 3,500 square feet, and the 1,200 square feet of the original kitchen.
And then the lab upstairs.
And then you do have classroom space and labs upstairs that will be open for this program to use those spaces. Classrooms, stuff like that is available to this program.
Okay, so if you're not, I guess my question is, why do you need an addition if you're not using the entire existing building?
So the current building is used in a couple of different ways. In 2019, we redid the second floor into an IT training center. There are a couple of IT labs that we use. We have an IT program that we run out of there. We use that building for workforce development, short-term training, 6 weeks, 12-week periods out of there. We also offer some courses over the summer for students who need, refreshers or whatever the case might be.
Okay, so even though the hospitality component's gone,
right,
you've still been using the rest of the building for...
Exactly. With the exception of the culinary lab itself, it was not in use. The second floor has a science lab, and that science lab will be converted to an anatomy, physiology lab specific for animals. We're talking about, models and those kinds of things. So
No, I
We-
understand.
Yeah, right.
When you said it was vacated, I assumed
That-
the whole
that
building
component.
was.
Right, no.
But only
no.
that one curricula
Right.
left the building.
Exactly.
And that piece has been vacated.
Right, right.
Now I understand. Thank you.
Okay, for sure.
No, just add to the conversation that the need, as part of this process to apply to New York State, we have to do two things. We have to submit a program proposal, which they have to approve. It's a licensure qualifying program. So it'd be like our nursing program or Surg Tech, Rad Tech. It produces someone who has to go out and get a license in order to work. So it undergoes great scrutiny by New York State Office of Professions. As part of the process, because it's our first venture into the domain of agriculture, because the vet tech is part of agriculture, not healthcare, we actually have to go through a master plan amendment. And the master plan amendment is where we got the letters of support. So the team, the 5 individuals, there are 2 veterinarians and 3 vet techs on our current team that we were able to bring over from Medai, have actually reached out to all their friends and colleagues around the state. So we've gotten letters from the head of the New York State Veterinary Medical Society, from the Department of Health in Erie County, from the president of the SPCA, and every animal clinic, animal hospital, veterinary office in basically Western New York. And these folks are plugged into this particular program. It's a small group of folks. Any of you who have pets or had thought about having pets, if you try to get in to see a veterinarian these days, it's very hard. It's extremely hard. And one of the reasons it's hard, there are not enough veterinary technicians because they do, the in and out, the initial evaluations, they assist in surgeries, they do all kinds of things. And without those vet techs, they're not able to continue. And so many of the letters say they're feeling like they're in trouble. They don't have a base of students coming up. When we did our analysis, I looked at all the existing vet tech programs in New York State. There were about 11. I think there were 11 or 12, and then Medai closed. Medai was contributing about 25% of all the graduates in New York State. So Medai had one of the largest programs in all of New York State, and that is now a gap because there's no one producing these students for the local community at this particular moment. So what we've had to do in order to make this happen is now we have to start a program, we have to plan a building, we have to get accreditation because the AVMA is the accreditor. You can't have a program without accreditation. We have to go through a number of regulatory agencies to get approval. And I think the issue for us is we don't want to wait 2-3 years to go through this process. By then, it might be too late for some of the students that are looking for this now. We want to move this as quickly as we can, still staying within the process, of course. And part of that process is if we can't, build our building, basically, then we don't have a place for the approving agencies to give us the approval. And it takes them a little bit of time, to get through things. So I think that, the need, we've established the need. There's no question that there's a need in Western New York, but also because it's an online program. We can serve students outside of Western New York, outside of Erie County, outside of even New York State. We can actually service students from, you name the state. If someone wants to take the course online, they can do that. It has I would mention, just because it's interesting, it has a large animal and a small animal component. We will not have any large animals at this particular campus. There'll be small animals. The small animals in the vivarium are rats and rabbits. It's a very small number of rats and rabbits that will stay overnight in the facility, and there'll be appropriate facility to tend to their needs. And then we're going to be partnering with the SPCA and using their animals who need spaying and neutering, because that's, if you've ever adopted from the SPCA, they require that you have the animal spayed or neutered. So we'll actually be providing the service to the SPCA, bring their animals over to our site, do the procedure on our site with students assisting, then take them back to the SPCA. So those large animals, cats and dogs in particular, will not be staying overnight on the premise. So that's the basic idea. The other piece, and you'll see it in the drawings, is it's a fully functioning clinic in every way we can make happen on that particular site. So it has a surgery center, it has a dental center, it has an x-ray center, it has a vivarium, it has learning labs, it has all the things as though you were in a small animal hospital. So students essentially can, simulate what it's like being out in the true hospital setting. Now, we train them up to a certain point. Then we do send them out to veterinary hospitals, veterinary clinics. So they all have to do a clinical rotation as part of this. But we need them to learn their skills right here and perfect their skills and then be able to go out into the community and do the work with one of our partners. So I'll stop there.
Okay. We're going to talk about the building project now, or the building project?
Thank you. All right, so I'll take you through the addition. As Dr. D pointed out, it is located behind Russell's Steakhouse and Hotel. It's at the eastern end of the site. The addition is an L-shaped addition. You can see it here in gray that kind of wraps around the northern section of the site. There is an outdoor component that's just an area to take the dogs out to relieve themselves, stuff like that, okay? So that's what this dashed in area up at the northern end is. We did reconfigure or restripe the parking area in a portion of the site. We relocated the dumpster over to the northern end. It was at the north end of the building here. We located it towards the utmost northern area near the existing structure sheds used by Russell. So this area here is 3,500 square feet, and you'll see in the floor plan that the area that is the old kitchen for the culinary school. Again, this is the addition wraps around here. The culinary portion of the kitchen was from here down, and that's 1,200 square feet. There was a little storage room over here, and that's now going to be the radiology area. This addition will have its own entrance, have a little reception area, and then the colored areas are the cat, the dog, and the vivarium area that Dr. Lynn just pointed out. Coming around the corner, we do have a lab area, and a lab area over here in this corner here. This is the dental suite, and this is the surgical suite up here. Okay? Radiology is located over here. This portion of the building will have direct access to the remaining portion of the building. You can come through on the first floor through this lab area, or to the second floor. We're going to keep that existing stair. It takes you directly up to the second floor into the lab space that's available up there. And here you can see some of the lab space, what they have as far as dental tables, some of the surgical areas, and some of the equipment that they're going to be using. A lot of millwork, a lot of storage. And then the addition itself is going to be a single-story addition. It's metal panel, pre-finished metal panel. There will be a component in the future. We are designing this roof to take on an extra floor in the future. Nothing is planned for that right now, but in the event they want to expand, we will have it structurally designed for that component. It'll be metal panel on all three sides. This is the fenced-in area here. Metal panel is going to kind of mimic the existing panel that's already on the building. It's got drive-it or exterior finish system on the first floor, metal panel on the second floor, and we're going to keep our component all metal panel on three sides. That's pretty much it.
Compared to the culinary program, this is a larger program, right?
Yeah,
Anticipated to be a larger student body?
Yeah, so the hospital, it was actually a hospitality program. It had, the culinary lab was the piece. So it had about 20 students I think at its peak in between 2006, 2010 was at its peak. It was about 22 students, 24 students. This will start with 24 students on site, 24 students online, and then over a 5-year period, it will grow to about 80 plus on site, another 80 plus online.
Is that the numbers Madai had? Was it
Actually, Madai had a larger number than that. From our perspective, given the space and how much we need to invest financially into this, we're going to keep it to that kind of a size. Should 5 years from now this explodes, in a good way explodes, we have other parts of the building to look at, plus there is another piece of the property that is south of the building that's also undeveloped, whether that goes into for parking or anything else that we want to do. And as Jim mentioned, there's always a second floor that we can add.
So you have the ability to expand parking is really what I'm getting at?
Right. We have that part of it on the side that was purchased back in 2012.
great.
That's the south portion is what Dr. Deeb is pointing out is a vacant lot just south.
It is, right.
And you own that lot?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, 2012 is when we.
that's great. I think it's a whole, I think it's great.
Is there any variances required for this part?
For this part here, not that I'm aware of.
Any other questions from the board?
I just sent out.
Mr. Schiller?
I just sent out some comments Monday or Tuesday on minor comments on drainage. I know you're utilizing what Russell has for drainage.
Well, right now, because we're trying to expedite the project, we're trying to get, that information. I know we've been working with Matt and his group to try to find some of that. I know Dr. Deeb, I think we had a meeting with Russell
I did, yes.
and his group yesterday to try to find that. But right now, we have a system that's separated from Russell's on our design that we submitted. We are putting in underground retention system. And then we're doing a tie-in. So we're not going directly into Russell's field of retention.
But you are going into
But
it
we're
eventually.
plugging into it.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Well, we're trying to find that information, and we're hoping that we can track that down.
So from a drainage perspective, I mean, we did check that. It has more than enough capacity. There. One question on one of the pipe sizes that we asked you. The other larger issue was on the north side of the site. The building is.
Yep.
It's in an easement.
Yes. What do you?
Sewer easement.
There is an easement that runs along the north side of the building here. We are currently about 2 feet, a foot in there. We are out right now trying to get a survey, get that resurveyed to get an exact location. The information that we had was not 100% exact. It was taken off of some old surveys, so we are out. We did send that information over to a surveyor to have them come out and redo it. And then we'll confirm that, and if we have to, we can make adjustments on the building to
The
whatever.
easements for what?
What's that?
What's the
It was a
easement?
sewer easement.
It's a sewer easement that runs along the, we did have some preliminary conversations. Andrew had some conversations with Erie County Sewer.
Is that,
and they weren't too concerned about that.
Because the one in the back, the one
Yes.
in the east, that's labeled as Erie County Sewer
Yep.
easement. The one that runs east-west,
Yep,
it wasn't labeled as Erie County Sewer. Is it theirs?
I believe so. Yep.
It is. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Fowler, we're still doing coordinated review, right? This hasn't been sent out to anybody?
We haven't done anything with this yet. I don't know that is the application fully in for us, and if I'm not mistaken, your comment said type 2?
Correct.
So we're all set on that already. We don't have to do anything with it.
Oh, okay. Matt, anything else?
Well, we're going to reiterate discussion on stormwater facility maintenance, whether or not you're going to share facilities with the Salvatore's project. That, however you want to accommodate that, you can file the maintenance agreement that's an accommodate. Since the original 2007 approval, there's been a lot of manipulations and movements within the site, and that's a natural course of development. We've created some nonconformities with the location of property lines, and I'm hoping that an updated survey is going to help rectify that, or perhaps re-describe the boundaries so that we make the site conforming. One building is overlapping a property line, and it appeared, from the one drawing, it appeared that the existing building was on the property line, but the GIS clearly shows there's plenty of property to the south of the existing building. So, once that has been addressed,
And Matt, the new survey is going to include the south portion.
the south portion,
Yeah,
right?
so we're gonna have that all
And
defined.
I'm more concerned with that larger storage building
Yes.
in the northeast corner.
Yes. He's talking about this area right here.
That overlaps.
There's the property line here, he's talking about that.
Yeah, I know exactly what that is. As some of you, if you've worked with Mr. Salvatore, when he asked us to actually use that, I do have a signed agreement that allows us to remove it if we ever need to. Okay. So we can provide that, but it does encroach over. But that also is part of the historic relationship that the college had when we went out there in 2006. So he was both a donor, but he was also the developer for that piece of property, so there was a little bit of amicable adjustments.
Would you describe it as being difficult to realign the boundary lines to make?
No, we've aligned the boundary line multiple times because, at least since I've been there, so having been at the college for the last decade, there were some issues I think that he ran into when he put the decorations or the separation of the line with the hotels that came up. If again, I don't want to be approaching on this. So we had to make some adjustments with that, so we're aware of that process. And do you know, so you know, I had with him yesterday, partly to give him an update, and Mark, so I met both of them, so there's.
Right, I got a call in the market as of yesterday morning as well.
Yeah, so we do have it, and he suggested that we tap into, on the water thing, if we needed to, we can tap into whatever we need to. He was very accommodating from that perspective. Very supportive of the project, obviously, because he would like to make sure that the building is fully utilized and he understands what we're trying to accomplish. But yeah, we can work with any of those.
Okay, and then as a last point, again, for the viability of both properties,
Yeah.
cross-access agreements, just to, because the lot is set off by itself. It has a Transit Road address, but it's kind of locked out. So for future ownerships, future relationships, let's have something in place that's kind of with the deed that allows cross-access.
For sure, and I think we have some of that documentation. It was done by a different legal firm than the current one that we use, but we're able to, we'll get that.
As long as there's
Where is the south edge of the building in relation to the southern property line before the properties merge?
considerable. The way it exists today is considerable.
You have the
It's within the setback, or?
south edge of the building is, the property line is here.
Yeah.
This is the south end of the building. That is the stairwell. Okay, and then the property is down here.
Okay, so they got plenty of space.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Already merged? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, as it sits today, there's plenty.
Yeah.
Is that it, Matt?
No, it's not.
It is, thank you.
Mr. Mazer, anything? Because it seems like we have a few things that were sitting outstanding that we need to wait for. Is that right?
A couple of quick questions on engineering, that's it.
What's that?
A couple of quick questions on engineering.
The engineering and the easement.
Right,
We want confirmation that the easement's not under the building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fair to say we should table that until we get the engineering and the,
We're trying to expedite this to hit their program on the fall of 2024. So
yeah, but I
somebody,
don't
can
know,
we
I
do
don't
a
know if
conditional?
I don't know if the planning board will, or the town board will, they won't review it.
It won't even make it to the agenda until all of the conditions are met. They won't do a conditional approval.
Would we be able to make a motion to move it along based on the conditions that we've been talking about? Because the town board won't see it before these are met anyway. Is that?
You can pass this and approve it if you like, or at least recommend that, with any conditions you want. Town board will not put it on the agenda until engineering, legal, and buildings and codes can check off the boxes. This was a condition, this was a condition, the other was a condition. In this case, I think we have an easement. We know we have cross-access, we also have stormwater.
Because it sounds like we approve of this, but these conditions will just need to be met, which would require a comeback, but only to say that we met the conditions, nothing's changing.
Okay, so let's think about this though. When would the next town board be?
The next one is Monday, the next one is 2 weeks thereafter. So we've got what coming up on the,
Okay, so if we don't vote on it today,
We meet December.
we meet when? We would meet before the next town board meeting that would potentially see it or no?
No,
Maybe
after.
You meet December 6th, we meet December 4th.
After. So,
It
Okay.
would have to be the second meeting, town board meeting.
so we would have to make sure we have clear conditions if we chose to move
approve it.
forward, because it's a type of secret, so we don't have to, that doesn't hold us up. And then, our approvals, we usually wait till we have a clean slate before we move things along, but it doesn't sound like anything that we have that's missing is difficult for you.
Right.
You know,
Right.
sometimes we get a feel from applicants that if we move it along, it's just gonna sit there forever, because they're not gonna come up with what they've been asked.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting that vibe.
Well, the only thing that could throw a bit of a wrench in the works would be is if the sewer easement is actually going to your building, which is gonna change your footprint and change, I'll say, size of the floor plan, right?
Right. Right. We could bring the building in and we could go out towards the back a little further if we have to.
But in that case, you would have to come back. Right? In that instance, it's a different picture.
If they change the design,
Okay, that's up to you guys. It depends how much they're moving. If it's 5 feet.
I mean, if the board, if everybody else on the board is okay with doing it conditional, I don't have an issue with it, because I think we all like the project.
Yeah.
I love the
And we think it's good for the town, and it's good for the college, and it's good for everybody, so.
good for my dogs and cats.
As long as we know how to properly define what the conditions are, I don't have a problem.
Okay, so we're going to confirm, we'll confirm with the easement, the building location. We'll confirm with the engineering, the one pipe size.
It's one pipe size. I think it was the pipe going from your system into the, you're tying into an existing
Yep.
pipe somewhere, so it's just.
So we'll confirm that. That's easy enough for us to review our calcs and review what we have. Hopefully, we can get a little bit more
Matt, you
information.
wanted something about access, right?
And the access will be with the attorneys, right?
I made some notes
That may
here.
already be in place.
Yes.
So if the copy is provided, that's a non-issue. Stormwater maintenance agreement, whether it's going to be cross-agreement or individual.
Yeah, I saw that. You had the draft of that already done.
I had the draft already done, but I didn't have the second party in there. That's the email you had sent me this afternoon.
If we're going to share that.
If they're going to share the existing system,
Yeah,
it's
you
not
have
going
the
to be
drawing.
separate.
You have the drawings for that. I gave you all the drawings.
You
for
gave me all
both
that,
systems.
yeah.
Right.
But that's going to require some time, I suspect, with Russell's, as long as they're going to agree to it, or Russell, or Mark, or whomever, as long as they're going to agree to it, they'll have to sign it, but that'll be on, I suspect, with some urging from you. And the same thing with the stormwater, the same thing with the cross-access, if it doesn't already exist.
Yeah, and I think that way already exists as far as the storm, because there's two receivers that are located in the parking lot that already tie into that system, into Russell's side.
There might already be.
There might be something that's already there.
Agreement, though, is the requirement of the maintenance of the existing system, whether or not they have been doing it for all this time, and we don't have any reports. This would just solidify the annual reporting and the 5-year certifications that we've been slowly getting into with most or all projects. So my understanding is that there may be 5 conditions on this recommendation. You know, the confirmation of the sewer easement location, the engineering dimensioning of an existing pipe, right?
Yep.
The stormwater maintenance agreement, the cross-access easement, and then the boundary line adjustment in that northwest corner.
And then
Cindy,
you should
you got all
probably
that?
also,
The boundary line adjustment, you're talking about his shed being straddling the property line?
Most of the shed is on this property.
I mean,
There's
but-
perhaps 10 feet of it onto the adjoining parcel.
I think it
So
would be beneficial to.
we have an agreement that allowed him to do that without surrendering control of the property.
Right.
So if we can just produce that. as a-
Yeah, it would be beneficial to produce that, along
Yeah, we
with the
can produce
agreement
it.
that you can remove it if you choose.
Yeah,
I have a signed
okay.
agreement.
Just thereby license, which can be withdrawn.
Sure. Again, it's a building that's crossing the boundary line, and we're looking at it from a building code administration portion of it, and there's separation requirements that need to happen. There's setback requirements, and local zoning that are required to happen. See, when this was originally built, it was one parcel, and we created 2, only because of the agreements that are made. And during doing that, some of those zoning parameters were not common.
Have you made them aware of where they're not compliant?
Yeah, we
So they
had some
know
correspondence
what to
meeting
ask
in
for.
November.
Okay.
And we can further
Yeah, no,
discussion.
I was actually-
Just so as long as you know what you need to do.
No, I know what the issue is.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll produce that document, and if that's not sufficient, then if we need to get a secondary document with Mr. Salvador, we'll get a secondary
I'm
document.
assuming that was the purpose of the call for Mr. Yuri. So he left the voicemail, and I gave him a call yesterday morning. And gave him directions there.
My understanding is when I was with him, that he called Mr. DePosi, because he apparently did some work for him when the property was initially established, but again, I don't. I wasn't there. I picked up stuff just like you picked up stuff along the way, and so we're doing our best.
Very good.
Okay, Cindy, do you have all that? Okay. So I guess, does anyone want to make a motion relative to those conditions?
I would like to make that.
Anybody want to second them?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Okay, so motion carried.
There's no secret.
I know there's no secret, but do we still need anything from SHPO because it's in an archaeological site? Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
You want the letter?
I think that was the only
You've
thing.
already got a sign off on it?
Yes.
That's-
Then we're done.
No effect letter?
So all I would do is make sure you're clear with what,
Yep, we'll work with
Being
Matthew. Yep, yep.
so
we'll work
that
with
you can get working on it, so that
Yep.
the next board meeting, hopefully they can get there.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
We will do due diligence.
Don't need some lead time discussion. It's a week before.
Yeah, a week before the town board meeting, so
Okay.
the second town board meeting would be
I think we're the 4th and then the 18th.
18th.
Okay.
So, but we did before the, well, was it a week before the 18th, so somewhere
Around the 11th.
Right.
Tom's office, so we can get a resolution, hopefully.
Okay,
We'll shoot for it even faster.
yep,
Faster.
Good luck.
absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We
Thanks,
appreciate it.
have a good night.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing I have listed here is discussion about a sidewalk waiver for 6273, 6279 Genesee Street.
Genesee Street.
This is all Matt. Mr. Fischel, we want to talk about sidewalk waiver for Genesee Street?
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
I don't know, it's listed here as a discussion, so,
There's a section in the code under streets and sidewalks that requires any residential district that is proposed for development or improvements required to have a pedestrian sidewalk. And that's been around forever.
Has he
So
ever,
there is provision in the code that the town board can provide waiver, and they refer it to you.
Why would we waive the sidewalk? Was there any justification other than they don't want a sidewalk?
We're in the northeastern corner of the town. It's an agricultural residential district, it's a state highway.
Are there any sidewalks?
40 years I've heard it's a sidewalk to nowhere.
Yeah, but,
Right.
you know,
Now
you
we
keep,
have places to go in developed portions of town where the sidewalk to nowhere now has to go somewhere. Whether or not you are doing a pedestrian study or determination that somebody's gonna have to walk from an area close to this to Clarence Hollow, Alden, back into Holmansville, I don't know. It's just, this is what the code is laid out, it's very clear that the sidewalks are required.
then the homeowners, or the owners of the parcels knew this, right?
Well, it was brought to their attention upon the building permit application. When we do a plan review, we look at all the zoning for the permitted uses, all the design standards. We did a grading plan review and has discussed right from day one. And
Okay, so-
the reality is there's a development to the south of this property. It's a single-family housing development, large lots. There's pedestrian traffic, public sidewalk within the subdivision, but it doesn't go out to Genesee Street. It stops short of exiting the neighborhood.
So I'll give you my opinion. We've got something written in the code that said sidewalks are required, right? You had a design professional submit drawings to the building department. That design professional should have known what the code said. That design professional should have shown what the code said. Or somebody should have asked for leniency to not protect it. Did any of that happen?
Well, they're asking for leniency at this point. Historically in town, it was a request of the town board to waive the sidewalks upon building permit application. Historically, that's been the policy, the process. I have not seen a format, an application, other than a stamp on an existing permit requesting a sidewalk waiver during the acknowledgement portion of the permitting section. During a town board resolution, it's identified the sidewalk waivers are or are not granted on certain permits. I haven't seen that in my experience here. Since then, 2018, I believe I started requesting a resolution from the town board specifically waiving that requirement from that specific address. And we have had, since 2018, sporadic waivers.
I don't know, my opinion is that
By the
I'm
town
only
board
one.
as it's prescribed.
I think it should be, I think the sidewalk should be there, but I'm only one on this whole board, so that's my opinion. I don't know if the town board wants us to vote on this. What are we supposed to be doing with this that's before us here?
I think that they're hoping that you guys will have the discussion and make a recommendation, an educated,
Grant the waiver, not grant the waiver.
knowing recommendation.
Some of these lots on major highways, there are no sidewalks.
Right.
And like you say, it's a sidewalk to nowhere. We've satisfied the code, hooray. Now, if the next person satisfied the code, the next person,
I believe that's what the
Sudden you're going
intent of
somewhere.
that ordinance was, understanding that the town was in a stage of development. Now, again, this is a code that's been in place for 40-plus years. So for those portions of town that are going to experience development, sidewalk was a no-brainer to install at the time for each individual, and then onesie, twosies in between. However, the town was going to address the pre-zoning occupancies. So, and it's become a topic of discussion as of late, because we have schools now on county roads, no access to the schools. We have had incidents on county roads where there was personal injury, there's been death. We have parks throughout the town now that are difficult to access other than motor vehicles. The comp plan does describe or recommend as a part of the goals to have walkability, interconnectivity between areas of the town through bike paths or walking trails, access to Como Park, things of that nature. Walden Avenue, you saw when they went through the road diet last summer. The northern side has a sidewalk stretch right down to Old Cemetery Road. And that's, again, for pedestrian access to get to a lot of those occupancies that didn't have a bus route. Bike lanes on Walden. Central Avenues had the bike lanes installed. William Street, their design is to incorporate public sidewalk, bike lanes, turning lanes.
So these four that are on here,
Well, these are the four that I had provided in August of known applications at the time. At the time, they were simply applications. As of today, 2 have requested. 1 is in process of requesting
what the
the waiver
waiver?
based upon their location in the town.
So what's the current zoning of these 4 parcels?
Well, the
that
4 are AR.
They're all in AR?
They're all in the AR district. Yes.
And how long has this been in?
The requirement.
Yeah.
And how long have we started to get requests for waivers? Just
The
recently?
requests have been pretty consistent throughout the years.
And we've granted, or they, most of them have been granted, I imagine.
Granted here.
In fact, sometimes it's brought up, oh, there's one thing we forgot, they want a waiver.
Yeah.
So if we make these people put them in, what if someone down the road was granted a waiver, who's gonna install that sidewalk in that piece of property?
So, right, you're right. And again,
Nobody.
this is where discussion has to happen. Do we amend this code? Do we specifically identify it in certain districts? Do you require it across the board? That's a discussion that has to be had. There was an attempt to install sidewalks on Pleasant View Drive. My goodness, it was pretty brutal. You know, when you find it.
I mean, today, this could be farmland 20 years from now, it'll be.
Right.
The waiver has got language in there, correct me if I'm wrong, that the town has the right to at any time come back and say, put them in, correct? Yeah. Not to do it today, you might have to do it 5 years from now.
Wow, if that's the case, then I guess it's not that big.
But then you run into a situation, you buy a lot, like you said, in Pleasant View, buy a lot on Pleasant View Road, I'm building my first house. From here to the, I can, nothing.
Right.
But you've got to have it because it's in the code.
Well, it's a part of the build-out of the town.
We'll have one home, will have sidewalks, and the rest,
And the rest don't.
no.
Those are the considerations I would imagine that the town would have to take. So again, answer questions as to how long this has been in effect. The definitions portion of the code was amended in 1986. The construction and the maintenance requirements of Article 2 were adopted in 1971. After the codification of the zoning ordinance. It's been around for a long, long time.
And then we say, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just struggling to find a reason to grant a waiver. I understand, like, it's a sidewalk to nowhere, sure, but I don't see a reason to grant the waiver, other than they just don't want to put the sidewalks in. I like sidewalks, so.
So this specific portion of the code was adopted or amended in May 5th of 1986.
It's a good year for sidewalks.
As the requirement is that sidewalks will be required along the entire street frontage of a lot or parcel that abuts an arterial or collector street on any and all town or county or state highways when the lot or parcel is developed, unless expressly waived by the town board. That's a design standard, it's just in a different part of the code. This is the 310 streets and sidewalks.
Well, it would alleviate some angst and burden on the town board if from the comma to the end of town board was just removed from the requirement. Then that would say that it's required, period.
That's the will of the town, absolutely.
So then they would get no more waivers. You could get rid of that line on your checklist, and there wouldn't be any more disputes. People would be required to put them in.
If I may just give an odd scenario, we're all familiar with Quincy and the home that burned down there a couple years ago. I believe it was the old Voida house. There's no sidewalks on Quincy. If you don't have the ability to give a waiver, if you just take that language out, you end up with one home on Quincy, which may or may not effectively ruin some of the character of that street. Now, I realize that's a village street, but there are probably streets in the town that you could make the same argument. I just offer you that as a devil's advocate. I don't know that you should be thinking about recommending removal of the language entirely so that there is no ability to issue a waiver if in fact a waiver is found to be appropriate or believed to be appropriate.
Another recommendation could be to identify certain areas of town where it's a non-discussion, which, based on the last amendment of our zoning code, would be just about every residential district. These are areas that are already developed, have potential for some infills, and
Well, that's why I asked you about the zoning. because
Right. I mean,
To me, in our district, it makes sense. I live on Westwood Road, which is AR district. My kids never went anywhere because there was no sidewalks and it's a fast road.
right, we wouldn't let our kids walk to school because there were 2 county roads. They were not going to walk to school, or ride their bikes, or we took them.
I think that's a great idea, Matt, but it seems like a huge undertaking, and I don't know who goes through and determines that unless you make a general statement that in all our districts they're required. And leave this as could be waived in others.
Right now, they're required everywhere,
Right now, they're required everywhere.
Any district.
Honestly, they're required
for
everywhere.
residential.
What scares me is we had a discussion earlier about Ransom Road, and the standard was 300 feet of frontage and 3 acres. And who wants to pay for 300 feet of sidewalk
a lot of
when
sidewalk.
your nearest house is at least 100 and some odd feet
You have
into
to
the
maintain it, the clearing of the snow, and making sure that you can get to where you gotta go. And
Yeah,
And it's the only sidewalk on the street.
it's
And
the only
if you do
sidewalk on
something-
the street. So, again, I don't think this is gonna be something that's answered tonight here and now definitively. But we're at a point in our town where we're starting to have other discussions pertaining to specific zoning code and some design standards and what the town wants and doesn't want. So this is one of many, many discussions that should be had so that when codification is finally adopted, it has a larger impact, meaning it's more efficient. I mean, I begged our zoning board to make some recommendations for our sign code. It's archaic. The technology is far gone beyond what the zoning code allows. But there does need to be a little bit of refining and quite a bit of leniency for advertising our businesses.
I think in order to make an educated decision on this, you almost need to see a map of the entire town that shows where sidewalks are and where they aren't right now.
Or at least along these roads for a certain.
What's that?
At least along these roads for a certain distance either way, so you can figure out where they are.
No, because then at least you can say, okay, this street, 90% of it has them. It's in an R district, or it's an agricultural district, or whatever district it is. Without seeing where the sidewalks are to nowhere, how can you make educated decisions on whether or not waivers should be granted or not granted?
I think the question is the property next to these vacant now, or they're already developed without sidewalks? Well, then you never get a sidewalk. If they're undeveloped, with the potential of developing as we go, well, then the sidewalks get to be extended as we go. But I don't know what's next to this.
I'm thinking of Kenora Street, where there's a lot of places that it's stop and start with sidewalks, but there's a lot of places where, there's stream crossings, for example, in some wetland areas that will never be developed, and they're always going to be a stop and start. Because unless the town wants to come in and pay, the property owners might even be the town. I mean, it's whatever the right of way of the bridge, for example, is. Right? So I'm thinking, I don't want to lose, I don't want to fight, but I don't want to lose the waiver ability, because there's a lot of places that I think over time are just, it doesn't make any sense. I live on Lake Avenue, south of William, and all the time I hear people walking about, well, they should put in sidewalks because it's so dangerous. Lake Avenue is full of speeders because it's a mile. It's from William Street to the butt end of Lake is exactly a mile. And if you can't hit 80 miles an hour to get to Windsor Ridge, then you just don't know how to drive.
There's a volume of cars there. And
Huge.
And people are going places, so whether they're doing their night walks, or they're going to visit, or they're going to the event, I mean,
There's nowhere.
1,000 different reasons why people walk. Okay, for the 20 years I've lived on Stony Road, not
Right.
once have I got somebody stopping for trick or treat.
Well,
We don't get that because nobody wants to walk
It's
on
too
Stony
dangerous.
Road with their kids.
that's right. I live catty corner from the subdivision, and I don't let anybody. When I first moved there, I bought 7 candy bars and full size because there were 7 kids. And now I don't put any lights on because I don't want anybody crossing that street. But there are sidewalks on the subdivision across from me, except where there aren't. There are places where you have to get off the sidewalk and walk in the street, and then get back on the sidewalk if there is one. There's gaps, and
So
some
with
of them
that
are
in mind,
developed.
you know, when we do redevelopment of
Yeah.
these parcels, these full-blown remodel jobs, additions and things of that nature, you know, that's a time where we think we need to have this consideration.
Yeah.
Maybe time to install that little stretch of sidewalk to connect 8 feet.
Yeah.
Right? An expansion of an existing driveway, the closing of a roadside ditch. Those are improvements on a lot that could complete the street.
Right. But, well, there's a guy on the corner piece that when he bought it, I went to the end of the sidewalk and then I walked on the grass to walk in the street because there isn't even a connection. Well, there is now, there's a little piece. But anyway, I said, you know, you should finish your sidewalk if you're on the corner. Well, he wasn't the original builder, the original owner, so, and it's a corner. It's a lot of sidewalk.
You know, there's grant funding opportunities, especially where you've got these missing pieces along the way. This is a public safety discussion.
Right.
So, you know, there are avenues to go to do this. It's not going to happen unless people start having that discussion.
That's right.
To me, I mean, I don't want to belabor this all night, but, so you think about a lot that's on somebody's road, right? Somebody wants to sell that lot. Somebody buys the lot,
Ransom Road.
right? The way it's written right here is that whoever's buying that lot better plan on spending $60,000 or whatever it is on putting a sidewalk in, because at the time of purchase, they're not going to know whether or not they'll get a waiver or not.
And that's the discussions that are happening in the permit applications. We have a manufacturing building on a road.
Like that subdivision today, that person that's keeping that lot, whoever's going to buy that
Right,
next
right,
lot,
Right, that's going to be on the eastern end of town. Is there a demising line there? I mean, if we line it up with the comp plan, it's paved road, right? East of that is a little bit more rural. You're probably not going to have high density occupants, but west side of it is pretty dense. People are going to go places. Pavement road, again, that's the county road. We have a town park on pavement road. Out of these developments that are spurred all over the place, how do you walk to the park? You don't, you drive to the park.
and that's why I think it needs to be somehow better defined.
Well, that's why we need a planning department.
Because if there's a waiver,
Who can take this up. We're not in a position to make these decisions as a planning board. We don't have the information. We can't
So, I mean, you need to see
determine the
the-
best thing. It's either the town board or come up with a planning board. It's full-time and can analyze this stuff.
I think Tony's right. I think you need to set, you have to have a map of where the sidewalks are, where they're not, and start there.
you can't make an educated decision without seeing the
But
total.
visually seeing where they are, where they're not. I 100% agree.
And then somehow you map it out to say that in this area, this color, you need to put sidewalks.
That could even give us a target list to be on the lookout for like modifications to, you know, oh, look what popped up. This was in the red.
So continuing this discussion at these increments of the comp plan update, the zoning codes, to have a plan in place and having an idea that yes, this area of town needs pedestrian traffic. Yeah. The grant opportunities are available. When you have a plan on a shelf, waiting for funding, that's the time you're more apt to get that grant to install those sidewalks. As you are chasing after it because they made money available. Without that plan, without those discussions, without the studies, the data necessary to identify those places, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay, so did we beat this one for tonight?
Yes.
I feel beaten. Yeah.
Okay, so there's one left here about copies of plans, hard copies of plans. Discussion or reducing the number of hard copies for site plan subdivision, review and compliance with town packets. Are you asking us if we want paper copies? Are we, you want to change your rules? What are we?
Well, these are the town's rules. We facilitate the town's rules. This application packet is an application for review. So the information you need as a board, that the town board needs the data so they application is yours. So how many copies do you want? We identified that the county and state agencies no longer require or want paper copies. They need electronic copies.
So,
Right off the bat.
so what does
You're
Matt,
sending me how many?
What does the-
9
what-
in my office?
To 7.
7 in my office? I need one.
Requirement off the bat of an
I
electronic
don't want this.
submittal, that's an automatic. That's the only way we're gonna get referrals out timely, is through the electronic copy.
so what does Matt get right now? You get electronic and paper?
Matt gets 31 quasi submittals, 31 of them. And then I have to ask, as a courtesy, please provide the PDF so that we can refer these things.
So my opinion is, I mean, it's 2023, you should be getting a PDF no matter what.
Yes.
Paper at a point in time was necessary.
Because the town's got to be running out of storage space for all these hard copies. And it's 2023, you should not be saving hard copies, in my opinion. You should be saving files.
But for each of you, can you do your jobs with digital files only?
I'm at that age where I like paper, but I can't find my desk at work because it's covered with paper.
I'll defer to the road folks when
I know you've got your
Yeah,
computer right there.
but
And I just picked up my calendar from the pharmacy. Next year.
I got mine, it's a 2-year.
I use paper just because I want full size that, I mean, otherwise, if I get digital, I'm printing it out. So,
Right, and that's what, a number of the letters that I get, you know, I can review them and get, that I'm familiar with them for the meeting. And there's others that I just hit print,
So who gets the 31 copies? Besides
Receive 31
8
copies.
of us or whatever?
7 of them go to this board.
Yep,
1 goes to the town engineer.
okay.
7 of them goes to the town attorney's office.
So if he needs one, now we're
6
down
of those now, I'm filling up filing cabinets because I don't need them. I need one in a digital copy because all of our coordination and referrals are digital anymore. They don't want paper. And each of the
Okay,
towns.
so we got up to 7, we got up to 14, we got up to 15. What happens to the other 60?
Well, the town board gets copies,
Town clerk?
the town clerk, police department, the highway department, parks and rec, school gets 2 copies for subdivision. I mean,
All for comment.
there's a list of recipients.
Okay, so here's my thought. We get a minor stipend, right, to do the planning board. We don't get town computers, we don't get anything provided to us. So my opinion is town employees should get PDFs. People who are on boards or whatever should get hard copies because we don't get supplied with the stuff to adequately review the PDFs.
Right.
But that's my opinion.
I agree with that. I can't.
So you got 7 for here, 5 for the town board, that's 12. I get 1. That's 13. You get 1.
I need
14,
one.
if he needs one legally, then
Only
that's
the one,
14 or
but
15.
You can knock 7 off from my.
But
6
that,
off.
I mean, that cuts it in half.
You were at 17, I know you did your first count.
And this ought to be a discussion you have with the department heads, the police department, highway. They may not want it, they may. The
We
board
should
may
have-
not want
we
it,
should
they may.
have.
Well,
You statements, I understand.
We
it.
can have
We
that
should have,
discussion.
yeah. This is the town's application. It's not a building department's.
but is it codified? Or is
Is
it
it
just,
codified?
is it just the process that we've used? We
It's
can
the process
change
that
the
we've
process anytime we want.
It's the process that we use.
There's no, it doesn't have to be so formal. If what we decide is we can do with less, for example, you could right now put 6 less down for my office. I don't need 7. I don't need anyone's permission to tell you I don't need 7 copies, yet I get 7 copies for every project. And I know we've had this discussion.
And we just have to change the application. 31 to whatever,
To,
and add PDF.
sure, and it's incomplete if you don't, it's the most important thing to me.
So my opinion is, next town board, threw it out there that besides the planning board, all town employees, full-time employees get PDFs.
I think it's reasonable. I think you're gonna find that most, you know,
Unless you need whatever hard copies for,
we've done more than
for legal
We had
review
17
or...
the last discussion, we whittled it down to 17.
Which is almost half.
That's my 2 cents.
So that would be, that would be appropriate, 17 copies with the PDF version. And, you know, and I know the time is getting beyond, but the content of the application itself, we have 19 items that we rarely get every one of them. It's always a back and forth, I need this, I need that, and I need the other. I would recommend, in addition to the 19, the other agency, at least application submittals, DOT, county sewer, water.
Yeah, but that's 8.5 by 11, that's
Those are
not,
little things, but
it's not
when
drawings.
somebody makes an application for a site plan review, they're going to have to do this anyways. And to get to the approval level, to the point of issuing a permit, and they haven't made the applications for the utilities or highway work permits or any of that information. Why did we even go through the process if we didn't make sure that they've done what they need to do to satisfy all those requirements? Because when we're getting environmental quality responses, those are not necessarily design responses because they haven't submitted a design. They didn't put an application for the waiver. They don't know what downstream capacity is yet. This is only the impact on the environment. It's your form. I mean, if you don't want the information, then we won't ask you for the information. But you know, it would be beneficial at this point in time because of all the regulation. It's probably not a bad idea to get that.
They don't accept if it's not submitted.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, he said it's easy to do, I would just
I agree.
Yeah.
change it. You should be getting a PDF, that's ridiculous that you're not.
Yep.
Anything else?
Public comment at this board meeting? You guys ready for that? Get some public input on these projects as they're being presented? It's really bad to hear these guys in the gallery during the board meeting on the approval resolution. Why did you do this? Did you consider that?
When we're the decision-making body.
It's not a good look.
No, I know, when we're the decision-making body. When we're the decision-making body, otherwise they're gonna be sitting back here, public comment, we approve or not. Go to the town board, public comment.
Recommend it.
Yeah.
But the public input could help with the recommendations
Or changes.
or changes. This is how you get good projects with a lot of input.
We had public comment when I was first appointed to the board, and it got to that we had to have a police presence in the beginning because the public comment got so out of hand.
But it was to
That's
remove.
command of the rules of the board.
Yeah.
That's, you have 3 minutes to speak your piece.
Yeah.
If you need more, give it in writing, like a mistake. You can't accept belligerence.
No, we didn't. We
No.
didn't. That's right.
And that town councilman was
I don't
also.
think it makes sense, a non-decision-making body to also hear a public comment when the town board has public comment.
Yeah, but the town board has public comment, public hearing that people don't tell us, and then we, after the fact, that we've already seen it and send it on, there's something comes back that the town board probably, well, you could remand anything you want back to this board. Just because we have passed something along to the town board, if you get some public comments that you think, even subdivision on Orange Street, if you got something that brought in new information, you can send it back. It doesn't, we're not done deal if you find something that changes the project, for example. So you can keep that in mind, but if we have said before, we take comments in writing, we take comments in various ways that would get to us. In writing is the best if people have to think about it. You know, they get.
Well, it's a big difference. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
not say anything, but when you're writing it, you see what it sounds like.
Yeah, right.
How does the board feel about a notification requirement in the general vicinity of an improvement proposal?
I think it should be required.
What do you mean?
Just to make
Neighbors.
people in the
Maybe
area
neighbors will
aware of
hear.
some improvement that's happening, because, you know, not everybody agrees to meet.
I agree. I agree. And I've been to other,
Improvements on that.
And, well, we're talking about items such as subdivisions, site plans,
Yeah, something big.
But on the applicant.
I've seen,
conditions that require site plan review.
I've seen places where if a variance is required, there's a big sign in front of the house.
Sometimes,
You know?
yeah.
Village does that.
Some
Yeah,
municipalities do that. They will post the property
Right.
that this is the date that it'll be heard, but there's also notification requirements
Right.
of the
To
surrounding
the neighbors.
area, especially the properties that are adjoining that area that's seeking relief.
Like we do with the rezone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to rebuild the wheel here, but
It's the responsibility of the
we
applicant
get better.
to notify the neighbors. And
I know the guy that lives right next to Field Stream, and he had no clue how many times that project was coming.
Right.
Does town zoning require notification?
Yeah.
For variance.
Zoning, variance for.
Variance too.
I assumed that the plant, I assumed any project was required, because they do so in the village.
A public notification in the local paper and a posting at the clerk's office. You might get it on the website,
Yeah, I mean, unless you're.
but the direct ownership in that area, if they're not looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was making all adjoining properties. If the neighbors are talking, you don't go from there, you know, if there's an issue.
Yeah, this is the rezone, it's, well, I think it should be. I don't, you're not talking about, like, first, a vacant lot that exists and someone decides to sell it, but it's in an approved, means code lot, to put it in a single family home, that's just a basic building. So they don't need to notify. If you have a lot that you own or you're selling and it meets current standards, there's no variances required. They're just gonna get building permit. You're not talking about notification for that.
No, those are administrative permits.
Anything
We're
that
talking
comes in here.
specifically site plan that needs an agency approval.
Right, okay. I'll make sure I get that.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned. I gotta do it one more time.
There you go.
Who broke my gambit system?
It was on there.
What? Oh, yeah, let me tell you. Hey, Joe? Joe, do you have 1 minute?
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna show you something. Yeah, well, I'm not giving this up, but it's supper shit. That is absolutely useless for what we're doing. We're gonna go find out what Clarence uses.
Hey, Dave.
And Ashley's.